All right, today I'm excited to welcome Tim Thomas to the show. Tim, thanks for joining me. How's it going today?
Brian, it is going. It's bloody hot down under right now. So I'm on the east coast of Australia, and yeah, we're getting. I'm not sure what it is in Fahrenheit, but in Celsius it's 35 to 40 degrees. So yeah.
Okay. I deal a lot with Canadians, and so I do a lot of Celsius Fahrenheit conversion when they're talking about stuff, and they're like, "Oh, it's -6," and I'm like, "It doesn't feel that bad." But anyway, Tim, I appreciate you coming on. If you could introduce yourself to my audience, who is Tim Thomas, what you got going on a little bit, and then as the show goes, we like to circle back and talk about how you got there.
Sure. Okay. So I guess I grew up in a very small rural town. You know, those towns that are isolated and insulated. Um, I heard a statistic that it was Australia's most prejudiced town. There was a lot of sort of friction between the Aboriginals and the whites. And my father worked for the Aboriginals within the church. I grew up very conservative Christian, very much letter of the law. So you can imagine, how quickly the kids at school figured out, when the interpretation of turn the other cheek, they could punch the big guy in the face, and whether that's right or wrong, I learned what it was to suffer for something that you believe in, right or wrong, and it's one thing to sort of, believe in something while it's still working for you. Oh, everyone's wearing a red t-shirt, so I'll wear a red t-shirt. But when it's not working for you, when it costs you something, that's when you sort of find out who you are. And that sort of was sort of embedded in me very early. The other thing was I grew up dyslexic, struggled to read and write. And the technical term back in the 70s and 80s was "you're stupid." Yeah,
Right. For sure.
I probably had ADHD, so I was the stupid kid that could never sit down. And so I grew up thinking, well, the sky's blue, my name's Tim, and I'm stupid, so I might as well have fun. So I was very disruptive in class, and
So
it
hold
wasn't.
on one second. You talked about having that conviction and learning early that even when it's not popular anymore, it's not working for you anymore, you stick to it. I think it's the other way too, and I think a lot of people that listen to this and are kind of going on an entrepreneurial journey or think something like that. If you believe in it and it's not working yet, you have to have that conviction too going forward. So I think that puts a strong core value in you when you realize that at a young age.
No, yeah, you're right. And at the time, I couldn't see the self benefit. Like things to me, things are only hard when you can't see the self benefit.
Yeah.
Like without getting too graphic, if someone said for $10 million you put this pin through your hand, you're like, yeah, easy, you do it, right? But it's only when we can't. Like, to me, hard only happens when you can't see the self benefit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And and when I got to my 20s, I started doing these IQ tests, and I realized, and I'm like, is this result right? I'm actually doing pretty good. And I'm like, maybe I'm not as stupid as everyone says,
You're not a student in the way they were teaching you was the problem. I think we've all come to that conclusion over the last couple decades and seen the wonders of adaptive learning and things like that. So you struggled through and you made it through into your 20s and started realizing that you weren't as dumb as everybody told you were. Where did that send you?
Well, it made me realize, like, I had a low sense of self-worth, but I still had, strengths and gifts to give. But my low sense of self-worth stopped all those seeds of greatness from growing. And I'm wondering, if I look around, how much greatness are we missing out on by people's seeds of greatness laying dormant because they may feel like they're not as valuable. And so it really gave me a heart. I get excited now about seeing the value in others, those dormant seeds of greatness. When they start flourishing like that, that lights me up. That gets me out of bed in the morning, And so, dyslexic put me in the top percentile of pattern recognition. So Brian, I can see patterns where other people don't see. And what I saw was energy was like money. How you invest it is how you get it back.
Okay.
And you've got a unique energy signature, Brian. You've got things that you do that you invest energy into that give you a massive return. And they might not be comfortable things, but let's say you spend $100 on. So apologies. A kangaroo jumped on the internet line and we had to fight it out. But yeah, so the pattern recognition I saw is energy is like money. How you invest is how you get it back. And your investments are very unique to you. I believe everyone's got like a unique energy signature inside of them. And you know, I actually don't believe everybody's special, but what everybody has got is startup capital. And you've got to find out the things in you that you invest in that give you a really good return on that capital. And it's different from each person. And don't expect anyone else to see that. You've got to see this value before anyone else does, because no one else can see it. Only you can see it. And in my case, in my 20s, I noticed that I just felt amazing when I fought. And so in the early days of mixed martial arts, it's now UFC, it's a big deal now. There were these underground biker bar, no rules fights. And the rules,
they had those there too.
Yeah.
They called it.
No,
I mean, it was Tough Man here is what it was called. I had a couple buddies that I just don't understand how they made it through, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and the rule session beforehand was no digit insertion, but anything else goes. And I'll tell you something funny, Brian. Guys figured out, like, they get into mount, they'll grab the guy's skull and then drive their chin into their eye socket. That's pretty clever. That's not a digit, it's a chin, right?
I mean, use the rules to your advantage, I guess.
Yeah. So it was rough and ready, and in these sort of underground bars, you could smoke back then, which doesn't sound like much, but as someone who's an athlete trying to perform while the room's full of smoke, it was a whole other thing. But yeah, those were the days where, you know, you didn't really know about it. You know, if the fight went to the ground, they'd boo. But it was just something that gave me. I just noticed that if I did that, life just got better and better and better. And me taking myself seriously like that, I needed a place where, at training, I was always a bit awkward. It always took me longer to learn stuff. But when I threw myself in an environment where I had an adequate threat, my body just clicked into gear, and I became everything that was supposed to be. And so I just learned that if I just threw my body into an environment, it would naturally kind of, all the amazing things would kick in. And I really think that, like, everybody has this incredible, I'll call this ancestral power. The power of your ancestors, for them to get through everything they got through, didn't disappear. It's still inside of us, but we only discover it when we're in the environment where it can actually come out. And I think our forefathers did too good a job in the way that our current world is so comfortable and easy. We don't actually get a chance to tap into that ancestral power and just see it's like, we've got these treasure chests inside of us, but they're under like 2 centimeters of soil. So, one little thing I like doing is I'll run ice bath sessions, so we'll do the breath work and then we'll get in the ice, and people get to see just how you get a tactile interaction with their ancestral strength.
Right.
And so what I'm sort of talking about here is sort of healing modalities that often, see, what I didn't know about my journey and what I didn't know about energy, and what society tells you to do a lot is, power up, hit the gas, accelerate forward. But think about this. If you're always accelerating, if you're always revving your engine and you're never hitting the brake, what's going to happen? You'll be very lucky if you don't have an accident, and your engine's always revving, and you'll never get a chance to cool the engine and heal and restore. So everyone's talking about hitting the gas, but no one's talking about hitting the brakes.
I go down the road. I still am, mindfulness, meditation, fasting, even. These are all in line with slowing down everything and letting everything kind of recoup and reset.
You're absolutely right, Brian. And there is a time to accelerate, power on, I think this country was made great by it, and you'll never discover your full potential if you don't. But if you don't learn how to hit that brake, then your revs are never going to drop, and you're going to cook yourself. You're going to cash in your tomorrows to live today, and that'll work until probably you're 30, right? But then, and people think, oh, when I'm 30, I'm over the hill. And I'm like, yes, you will be over the hill if you're cashing in your tomorrows to live today. And so these days, especially if I'm talking to performance-based people, I think performance like a pyramid. At the top of the pyramid, you're making bank, you're hitting your targets, you're doing everything you want to do. But at the bottom of the pyramid is your rest, recovery, and healing art forms. And the top looks nothing like the bottom, and the bottom looks nothing like the top. But if you can actually extend that base of rest, recovery, healing art forms, and just like, the top of the pyramid is unique to you, the bottom of the pyramid is quite unique to you too. I mean, I like breath work because it's kind of universal, that anyone can sort of use, but there are unique ways for you to access what's called your PNS, your parasympathetic nervous system, your ability to hit the brake, drop the revs of the engine, and then heal, restore, recover, regenerate. That art form of self-regeneration is a bit of a lost art form, and it's usually only discovered. Well, I discovered it when I just completely wrecked myself and then had to find a way. Well, how do I keep moving forward here?
So
yeah.
you were fighting. Were you good? Were you like the guy that everybody wanted to kick his ass?
Well, I'll tell you something. In my first fight, I was a yellow belt, right? And I was fighting this black belt, and this black belt had just won the Australian title for whatever, right? And so everyone thought I was going to lose. And I get in the ring, and you can wear whatever you want, right? So I was deliberately wearing my yellow belt, okay? But I'm the thing is, the other guy can be more skilled than me, but there's no way he's going to be training harder than me up until the event. So I took myself to hand like a beast. Like everything I was doing, I'm like, there's no way that guy's going to be training harder than me. And so I get into the ring, take the yellow belt off, and then I experienced something that I didn't know was inside of me. And when I talked about ancestral gifts, in the movie The Matrix, where things slow down, things just went vroom and slowed right down. And I'm like, when he does something, his hands drop. And then I see his hands drop, go vroom, right? And his head looked like a massive balloon. I'm like, he's open. He is open. And this is bare knuckles, right? But open palm strikes. And I had my hand taped, right? There wasn't any regulation. So my palms were taped, and I just run in and I hit this guy. And when you've hit someone hard, when the whole crowd goes, boo,
right.
And then he got like, there's like, I felt like I hit a balloon of blood. There was blood over him, blood over me. And they stopped the fight. So I did win probably more than I lost. But I was more of a ground fighter. I do hold a few Australian titles in ground fighting. But what I found in my fights was, if you take them down, exhaust them, then stand them up, it's much more efficient to knock them out when they're exhausted. So
when they're tired.
Before I knew about breath work, I knew that if I could take away their lungs, their skill level would drop to a white belt.
Right.
So that breath is deep ancient wiring, and it outranks our thinking mind. So this is why, if you've got intrusive thoughts in your head, breath work can displace those, just like someone who's a black belt becomes a white belt when their lungs get taken away.
Right.
So
it makes sense.
Yeah,
it makes sense for sure.
So it was great. It was good, but it wasn't paying anything, and I was wanting to start a family. And then the Australian military started a scheme that hadn't actually been ever trialed before, and that was a scheme called the DRSF scheme, Direct Recruiting into Special Forces. And that for the first time ever, civilian personnel could, through the appropriate screening processes, then apply to get into the special forces. So no one had done this before, and I think 5,000 to 10,000 people applied, and they had to go through physical testing, psychological testing, aptitude, IQ, blah, blah, test. 70 were taken in January 2004, and I was in the 70. But at 30, I was the oldest person there, so everyone called me Old Man Tomo, and I didn't like it, but I'll tell you something about breath work. Your body, what I understood, and the reason I could keep going when these younger, fitter, faster, stronger guys than I stopped, right? And they're probably smarter than me, but what they didn't know was I knew that the body had a ranking structure for blood. So there's parts of your body that are more important for you to survive that call rank on the blood. So if the brain feels like it's not getting enough blood, it'll go, I'm more important than the rest of you guys, I'm getting the blood. And it'll knock you out so you're horizontal so it gets the blood, right? Your lungs, believe it or not, breathing is really important to our survival. So they have a very similar, outranking structure to them. So when they get fatigued, they can say, I'm more important than the rest of you guys, I'm getting the blood. Now, unlike your brain, your diaphragm here is a massive muscle group, and it can take up to 1/3 of your total blood volume. So, you might have, say, 9 liters of blood circulating in your system, but if your breath gets fatigued, it can take 1/3 of that. And so you've only got 6 liters left in your arms and legs. So these guys that were younger, fitter, faster, stronger than I was, you could hear it. They'd come to a certain point when their lungs would fatigue, and and they're falling over. And meanwhile, Old Man Tomo just doesn't stop, because I wasn't just, cycling the oxygen more oxygen. I was having, my arms and legs might have been weaker than theirs, but the blood was where it was supposed to be.
Right. And so, it was fully oxygenated too. I mean, that doesn't hurt. It just the blood being there, being fully oxygenated and ready to work is very important too. So, I mean, it totally makes sense. And I think you see this in people that don't even realize what they're doing. You always you run into those people that, like, I can't believe you're 50 years old, like, those kind of scenarios. And and they all seem to have that calm, that really even keeled demeanor. And I think that would probably play into that keeping those lungs full.
That, plus growing up in the 70s, getting beaten up every day, it was just a Tuesday. I was back highly. I was quite resilient,
Right. So you made it through a pretty big cut there, and started a career in the special forces. Did that last? Was that your career path at that point? Is that what you
absolutely
wanted to do?
I wanted to do that for the rest of my life. Did my deployments to East Timor, Afghanistan. I wasn't a particularly good sort of soldier on base. Like, I didn't understand Army culture that well, but in the field or on deployment, that's when everything kicked in, and like that ancestral strength just sort of kicked in, right? But then
it puts you in that world. It puts you in that mode where it isn't the rules. I mean, it is. You have training for a reason, but I mean, I haven't experienced it, but from talking to folks, it kind of, the rules go out the door. I mean, it's stay alive.
Well, it's amazing where you discover that, firstly, money means nothing when you're really tired. It's how connected you are to your purpose. And you go beyond fatigue. Like, you're not sleeping, you're trained for that. But then, outside the wire, you're losing mates.
Right.
You could be next. You see limbs blown off your mates as well. So money means nothing. Purpose means everything. And I remember having this conversation with myself one day, Brian. It was just after a guy got blown up. And I thought, okay, this guy's dead. What difference has that made? And what's the rating on this show? How's
Oh no,
the?
I mean you can do
All
whatever
right,
you want.
all
Well,
right.
I can put explicit on the episode if it
Okay,
needs to be.
sure,
I'm
sure.
okay with it.
I mean, I don't swear all the time, but when I drop into certain states, I just have to sort of say it as it was. So I remember, you know, the guy died, the bomb went off, the guy died, and the sound, we're in this valley, and the sound kind of rippled and reverberated around the mountains. And it was almost like the mountains were saying, we're just going to hold you for as long as we can, you know, Australian soldier. And I thought, what's changed here? You know, what a couple of liters of blood on the ground. What's changed? You know,
Yeah,
fucking nothing. Nothing's changed. And you know what? What's going to change if that was my blood on the ground? Would anything change here? You know, there'd be some sad people at home. But then I'm like, you know what? I have an enemy here. Okay, and that enemy is observing me. And as much as my death may mean nothing or change nothing, my willingness to die changes everything.
right.
So I have to be willing to give it all because my enemy will know me. And I remember we intercepted the radio chatter as we were moving through an area, and the chatter was like, "Who are these guys? Who are these guys? Oh, these are the Australians. Oh, these are the dangerous ones." So my willingness to be 100% committed didn't just remove my fear, it also reduced the likelihood of me dying. But if I try to avoid it and I acted scared, I just empower that which was already seeking to destroy me. You
Right.
see how that works? So there was these little conversations where I felt very blessed to be dropped into a space where I could really see um, what real power was.
Yeah. There's a epidemic here of post discharge, post military service suicide and struggles and mental issues and PTSD. Is that a lot? Is that the same in Australia? Is that a service thing in general? Um,
Yeah.
does do these realizations that you had real time in the field, um, does that help that? Are these some of the questions these guys are asking themselves when they get back and they don't have the support around them? And that's what's so depressing and so damning is I saw my brothers, and then I'm here. Why? What difference did it make? I mean, that seems like a very easy question to send you down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, Brian, that's a really good question. I love your insight here. And to answer your question, yes, we do have a problem with veteran suicide in Australia. We've lost Australian forces. We lost about 40 odd guys to suicide, to bombs and bullets in Afghanistan, but probably 30 or 40 times that amount to suicide when they got home. So it is a problem here in Australia. And once I went through my own PTSD, and incredibly low point, I started working with a veteran charity, and I gave myself a goal of saving 40 veteran lives from suicide. Now, I didn't care if I worked the rest of my life to do this. I said to myself, I would die happy if I can achieve this. That goal was actually achieved within 12 months because pattern recognition here from my dyslexia helped me see two things that the mainstream did not see. And me simply addressing those two things had one or two guys a week come up and say, "Do you remember that, workshop? Do you remember that conversation?" I'm like, "Yeah." Well, it was at that moment I chose not to kill myself. And these guys were sometimes walking to their car with everything they needed to kill themselves in the car. It was crazy. And those two things were this. What I saw that the mainstream didn't see, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a veteran or my way of realizing this was through the veteran path, but this is humans, right? My observation of humans. This is an offering. I saw that it doesn't matter if pain's physical or emotional. It'll get to a certain duration, Brian, or intensity, where it transforms from simple pain into something far more insidious. Loneliness, isolation. I'm the only one that's going through this. I can't speak to it because if I did, that would cause other people more pain. And this loneliness and unspoken words becomes like rocks around your heart. And, you know, veterans especially needed to hear someone who'd walked that path before and speak the unspoken words that were around their hearts. And so I knew when I'd run a workshop or I'd speak to someone myself, something would happen when you spoke the unspoken words around their hearts, and the rocks would start to dissolve. Their jaw would kind of pop open, right? Which is really interesting. Why the jaw popped open? Because our vagus nerve, our vagus nerve is what holds all our sort of nervous and blocked energy. There's two attachment points behind the jaw, so they would go like something would be released, and they'd say words like, "Fuck, I thought I was the only one." And that's the beginning point of the healing journey. And then what you have to, the other thing that you had to understand is when people are feeling alone and isolated, no one's got their back, they can't drop their guard for a second because something bad's going to happen. It's going to be their fault. So these guys aren't sleeping. So loneliness, fatigue, two of the biggest impact factors. Like there are millions of dollars poured into veteran recovery, poured into mental health. But if someone's feeling all alone, they can't drop their guard, they don't know who to trust, and they're not sleeping, they're completely fatigued, they've got no energy, then it's just water off a duck's back.
As a spiral.
Yeah, water off a duck's back. You can be in front of the best healer, it won't matter. So that's where, you know, I was kind of known as the guy with, you know, 20 cents and a toothpick could do more than, you know, millions of dollars of you know, unfocused resources could do. And so I just know I started running programs that the success of which was measured on how much it improved the veteran's sleep. Because because you know, we're made out of the same stuff as nature. You know, if you can just improve the soil, everything naturally grows. And sleep is the soil from which everything grows. So if I could give someone, you know, $1 million or 1 million good nights sleep, I'd give them 1 million good nights sleep. It's far more valuable.
I think we realize that on a day-to-day basis, but I don't think we ever step back and see the big picture. Like you get up in the morning and you're exhausted for whatever reason. Maybe the dog kept you up, or you got to bed late, or you're stressed out, but you wake up the next day and you have that shitty day. But by the time you get to the next day and you wake up and you had a decent night's sleep, and the next day, I just had a bad day yesterday. Well, maybe there was an actual cause to that, but we just didn't put it together.
Well, unfortunately, Brian, it's like our society praises people for being sleep deprived. I only had 3 hours and I just had an extra coffee and I kept going. What's your excuse? You know, it's like we give these guys medals, and life just becomes a shit eating competition. You know, look at that guy. He eats 12 buckets of shit for 7 hours a day, you know, 7 days a week, 365 days a week. Like, I mean, please, you know,
Right.
and you know what? You will probably get ahead quicker in the first couple of years doing that by burning the candle at both ends. All right. But this is where you're cashing in your tomorrows to live today. And so
let's talk about the breath work. This is what you are doing right now. This is your life's mission. Let's talk about what you got going on, and then we'll kind of wrap it up and get out of here.
Sure. Okay. Well, there's a lot of people talking about sleep, and there's all these hacks. But I like breath work because it gives you something you can use immediately. Like literally tonight, you can turn your bed into a cloud with breath work. And I'm going to talk about it for a bit, but I want to give people tools that they can use immediately. I think permanency, like we've had a good conversation. I'm sure people have got nourished from it, but if we're really wanting to add value to people, we want to give them something they can use tonight, tomorrow night, next week, this year, next year. And so I'm going to, at the end of this, just know I'm going to show you how my humble brag is I'm going to show people how in 3 breaths, they can completely relax their body. Okay, so we are going somewhere with this. It's not just another talk fest. I know when I had PTSD, all these academics would come down and go, in a 7-year study, here's what we found. I'm like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. I've been living with this stuff. I know. What can I take home right now? Give me something I can use. And it was just talk. Okay, so I can't do what you do, Brian. I can't do what the people listening can do. But if I can improve your sleep, you're going to be able to bring your gifts into the world so much better. You're going to be able to bring your higher power. Those dormant seeds of greatness flourish when the energy levels are right. So sleep is, let me put it like this. In the Special Forces, we didn't know anything about the science of sleep, but we would target the enemy's sleep because we knew if we could take it out for 3 nights, it would mess them up better than a bullet. Okay, so if you really hate somebody, you'll destroy their sleep. Conversely, my favorite saying is if you care about somebody, you'll care about how they sleep. For me, in my world, the best gift you can give somebody is the gift of sleep. And so right. I've with what I've learned in the veteran space, I've created a platform where you can make a lifestyle out of it. So I'm going to show you something in a second that you're going to be able to use for the rest of your life. You're going to be able to share with your family and friends, but it's lifestyle that gets you into trouble. It'll be lifestyle that gets you out of trouble. So my offering is I've got this little online resource, Breathwork in Bed, that you tell it when you want to sleep, you tell it when you want to wake up, and we take care of the rest. Because, people who are tired, they're already doing enough. They're like, I don't have to do more. Just here's what I want, take care of it for me. And you'll notice that good sleep or improved sleep has an accumulation effect, just like it's got an accumulative detrimental effect when you're not getting it. So as you start banking these wonderful night's sleep, you might not see it, but your partner will be like, oh, you're less pissy in the morning. I was talking to a veteran the other week. He'd been on it for just a week. And he says, oh, my partner's saying I'm less pissy in the morning. I'm less of a, which makes sense because when you actually sleep properly, your spinal fluid goes up into your brain and cleans it, detoxifies it. So if you're not sleeping properly, you've got all this toxic crap in your head and you're in your reactive state, fast beats slow. When you're reactive, that's quicker than, having those higher thinking kicking in. So when I the best way I can say it is this, Brian. There are 2 completely different types of people in this world, and they're both you and they're both me. There's the me that wakes up after a bad night's sleep. I eat more. I have more coffee. I'm shitty with people. I'm extra angry with people in traffic, and it's just hard. And then there's me after a really good night's sleep. I'm connected. I'm rested. I can connect with others. And I think it goes off the idea that the more powerfully we are connected inside ourselves, the more powerfully we can connect outside of ourselves. And we're really made to be social mammals. I'm supposed to have your back, Brian. And when you've got my back, like everything else is a very small detail. But if we're not connected inside ourselves, it's hard to connect to others. And if we don't give ourselves the resources we really need, we'll look outside of ourselves. And I tell you, Brian, our whole consumer culture works as supply and demand that we can't give ourselves what we really need.
Oh, right.
And this is what I love about breathwork. So we tend to think that, when I go out there and achieve a certain thing, that'll give me a certain state of being. If I have this and I have that and I have this. Well, I tell you, breathwork done right gives you that sovereign power to give yourself everything you actually need. So my vision for myself and everyone I work with is to be what I call energetic millionaires. So to create that energetic abundance before you leave the house. Because I've been that guy, Brian, where, I've only had 50 cents worth of energy someone's taken 25 cents, and we've all been taken from. And then I'm like, that was wrong. I'm right. I'm going to chase that 25 cents for years. And I forget the fact that I can make another $1 million the next day.
Right.
You know, so I like breath work because it gives you the ability to say that I can put back in far greater than what can be taken from me.
And that gives you the ability to put value out into the earth. And I, I talk about that on the show a lot. Is at one point I really value for value ethos really clicked in my head, and it came a roundabout way through Bitcoin and through some things and direct creator value driven stuff. But at one point it just clicked in my head, and this is more than about me getting a couple of Bitcoin for my podcast. It's about life. And if I live my life this way and put value out there, it's going to come back to me. And if you don't have that energy to put it out there, all you can do is take, or at least stay even, and you're not making things better.
Well, you know what? There's no staying even in my observation, Brian. You're either going up or you're going down. There's no holding ground, because I did that for years. So what nobody knew, when I was saving those 40 veteran lives from suicide, I was being generous from a position of adequacy where I was breaking even. And if I was at 100% and I gave someone 10%, I noticed there was a part of me that said, you know what? You better do something with that 10% because I'm down to 90% right now. I would add attachments and expectations.
You wanted a return on it because it costs you.
Yeah. So these days I don't give of myself anymore. I give of my abundance. So if I invest in myself, if I create 500%, I can give away 20% a day. People can love it, hate it, tell me to F off. It doesn't matter. I know I can make $1 million the next day. So generosity, and, powerful people are generous people, and generous people become powerful people. The way our minds are structured, the energy, and if you want to supercharge, hack your brain, all those chemicals get released when you're being generous. Right. And also, even just someone observing you being generous powers them up. So there's this I'm a big fan of generosity. I believe that's full circle connection, but generosity can be done wrong. I actually think some of the nastiest people on this planet were initially quite generous, but they gave of themselves, and life took, and they're like, nah, stuff this. I'm going to protect myself now,
Right.
And so giving, and I almost was that guy, right? So I encourage people to be generous, but give of your abundance, meaning that give of the things that you're abundant in. So I give what I'm abundant in. I mean, I am quite physically gifted. Okay. So it's very easy for me to take my neighbor's bins in. It's very easy for me to help an old person at the shop. So that's out of my abundance. So so I don't have any attachments to it. Some people, they might have a lot of financial currency. So it's not a big thing to give $50 away. It's like, whatever. So some people are really good at listening. So whatever you're abundant in, our goal is to master that, and then create an abundance, and then give away a percentage, and just watch your life flourish. I think we've tangented a bit here. I do believe in generosity, but being generous to yourself first, and then, giving, of that abundance. And then just sort of stand back and watch the show of your own life.
And that's kind of what I'm doing. And it seems to be working all right. The communities that I've been able to build around myself, attaching myself to the people that have that like mindset, it has been great. So I definitely understand what you're putting down, and I encourage anybody to look into it or think about it or contemplate it to hopefully it clicks at some point, and it will when the time is right.
Absolutely. And you said a big word there, community, connecting to others. We're social mammals, we're supposed to have each other's back. And if you can be the type of person that people can trust, like you might say, I've trusted other people, I've gotten hurt, I don't want to trust anyone. Well, forget about that. Just be the type of person that others can trust. Because when you actually are in that place, people feel safe.
Right.
And it's to me, it's like a hovercraft. Everything just lifts up and their whole perspective can shift in an instant. There's no heavy lifting. And for me, trust comes on the back of sincerity, and underneath sincerity, there's completeness. Like I have to ask myself, well, what do I need when I wake up? Like for me, I've worked out, I've got it's just like people have a shares portfolio. I have a joy portfolio. I need to spend a certain amount of time accessing my breath, accessing, some meditation, morning light, playing with my dog, going for a run, lifting a few things. That's my joy portfolio that puts me into abundance. And then when I hold space for somebody, I can be sincere. Because if I felt like I needed more money, more intimacy, more this or that or this, that would show up in my interaction without any saying anything. So,
Right.
before this podcast, I wanted to be 100% authentic. And I'm human. If I don't give myself what I truly need, I tend to, try and manipulate the outcome of stuff. So, giving yourself the gift so then you can give it away. So I take these podcasts very seriously. So yeah, for the last 2 hours, I've been preparing myself so I can actually give the best of myself. Otherwise, like any human, I'll be like, when do I get my turn,
Right. Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. And I mean, I interview a ton of people through this, and you I pick up on it immediately. And you carry through because it's a show, and you got to put it out for your audience, but you can definitely tell the people that are genuinely there to have a conversation, to tell their story, and to hopefully impact people and add value to their day, because they're choosing to spend their time and their abundance listening. So hopefully I return something to them. So uh, let's return something to them now, and
Yeah,
and
I
we'll
would
talk
love
about
to.
the breath work, and we'll wrap it up.
Sure. I would love to show you how wonderful your body is. Okay. This body of ours, it does a lot more than just carry our eyeballs around. All right. um, and my access to the wonder of your body is going to be through your breath. What you're going to discover is that these aren't lungs we own. This is a medicine cabinet with a lot of different shelves. You breathe a certain way, you'll elicit a certain response. So I'm going to show you now how in 3 breaths you can completely relax your body. But here's the kicker. It's 3 proper breaths. Okay? So breath work isn't hard, but you've been breathing your whole life. It's the oldest habit you've got. You do it without thinking.
Right.
So I'm going to show you, I'm going to use all my breathwork coach superpowers to make it easy and effortless for you to nourish your body with your breath. But because it's a very old habit, I always ask people 3 questions. And if they agree to those 3 questions, we proceed. So, and I'll ask you, Brian, and the people listening, just, give yourself a yes and nod, or so you can get the most from this offering. Brian, do you give your physical body permission to receive all the nutrition from your own breath,
Yeah.
to be
Yes.
nourished by your own breath? Yeah. Okay. Do you give your mind permission to be nourished by your breath?
Yes.
Do you give your unconscious mind, all those unseen parts of you, permission to be nourished by your breath?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. We're in the zone right now. This starts really, really easy, Brian. All I want you to do is simply breathe in and breathe out. Okay. So if you did that, you are on the first step to peace and power. Why? Because you became aware of your breath. So when you're focused on something outside of you, threat, target, something you want to achieve, you disconnect from your own body. And often we disconnect from our breath. And without knowing that, we can shallow breathe. And shallow breathing puts your body into a certain fight or flight state. So simply being aware of your breath creates connection with your body. So that's really good. But now we're going to juice this breath up. So when you breathe in, Brian, I want you to breathe into where you normally go, but then breathe in more. Cool. So I'm going to, okay, in more. and then just let it out. Okay. Laughter and smiles is very much part of breath work. This is what I love about it. I can do sober what most people need to get drunk for. All right.
Okay.
So it's my humble brag.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I make you better looking. Excuse my dry humor. Okay. Okay. So you notice probably a bit more space opening up in your top third of your lungs. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to call that your secondary inhale. You got your primary inhale, you got your secondary inhale. So we're going to just smooth that out. We're just going to breathe into your primary and then into your secondary, but we're going to blow it all out first. So as you blow it out, just blow it out and just shake it out, blow it out, 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 and then breathe in, feel the primary, feel the secondary. And if it feels good, let it out with a sigh.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, you definitely feel that it's almost like a second stage. And at the first time, you were consciously having to do it, and then, like you described, as you're breathing in that first stage, the second time it just kind of kept going, but you felt a difference.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to show you something again about your body you didn't know. If you hold up your thumb and two fingers for me, can you do that? All right, like little crab claws. So these things here, these are turbo buttons for your secondary inhale. So what we're going to do with these little turbo buttons, we're going to blow it out, breathe in, and when it gets to the secondary inhale, I want you to pinch them as hard as you can and notice how that impacts your secondary inhale. Cool?
Yeah.
All right. So let's blow it all the way out, 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 out. Start breathing in and then hit those turbo buttons hard as you can. Pinch them as hard as you can. And if it feels good, let it out with a sigh.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Is it working for you?
It's almost like you know what you're talking about.
Look, I love being a human because I'm not one in a million. I'm a million in one. If it works for me, it can work for a million others. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. And
So,
if it doesn't work for everybody, it's going to work for a large majority anyway.
absolutely. Yeah. And So what we're going to do now is just like we smoothed out the primary and secondary, we're going to smooth out the primary with the turbo boost. All right. So we're just going to feel what it's like to breathe with that little bit of assistance.
Is
Okay.
this
So,
is this anything related to meditation poses where you're holding your thumb and four fingers together?
well, there is a reason for that. So believe it or not, hands and grip strength is these hands, they're electrical generators, essentially, the amount of currency we put through our body. And if you're at the doctors and they're trying to tap your knee and you don't get a response, they'll get you to grip your hands together really tight because that sends more currency through your system. And then you tap your knee and you get a response. So Chinese would call that life force. All right. And now it's getting to the stage now where certain preventable diseases are getting tested with what? Grip strength.
Mm.
So think of this as, we're electrical beings. The amount of electricity we can put through our system, the amount of light, where there is light, there cannot be darkness. Okay. So grip strength is one of those unseen powerhouses in your body. So, and I'm just speaking, and what we're doing is tapping into this little, I call it just a turbo button for your breath, to allow you to access that muscle group with extra assistance.
Okay.
Cool,
Gotcha.
cool.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
just as a side note, I spend a large portion of my day, I'll just go out and I'll hang on something, and I'll just hang because it's not just good to decompress my spine. I got chronic injuries in my spine, but this grip strength is your key to longevity. The amount of life force, the amount of energy I got running through my system. So for me, my longevity plan is grip strength and lung strength. Okay. And you don't hear about this stuff because you can't show this stuff off down the beach, you know. All right. Because we're very visual people. We have to see these things, but we end up losing all our power because it's just It's what's seen from the outside. So this is what I love about breath work. We get to access real power, and we get to be sovereign people.
Right.
So we're gonna do that. We're gonna blow it out. We're gonna hit those turbo buttons. We're just gonna make it nice and smooth. Blow it out, blow it out, blow it out. And then when you're ready, start breathing in. Then hit those turbo buttons. Give yourself a boost. Nice work, buddy. All right.
Yeah, I like it.
Now
I like it, man.
We haven't even started, Brian. We're going to juice this up like you wouldn't believe. So you're doing really well. You've got that secondary inhale going. Now we're going to juice it up even more. So when we breathe in into that secondary inhale, we're going to look up and raise our chin and sort of look up and lean back. Okay. A bit like, you guys got limbo over there. You sort of look up, lean back. So we're gonna raise the chin, look at the ceiling as we open up. And I notice my turbo button's going to turn out a little bit when I'm doing this to open everything up. So let's blow it all the way out. Out, 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 out. Everything's nice and relaxed. And then breathe in, hit those turbo buttons, raise that chin, raise that chest, open, open, open. Hold it, wriggle your shoulders, and then let it out.
I just felt everything like crack open in my shoulders as I was doing that. I sat here, worked on the computer all day, and you're having me stretch it. It feels fantastic. This is so this is something you're going to do to put yourself at rest.
I'm getting to this. What I'm trying to teach you right now is proper breathing. So your back went crack, 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 right? Because part of how I spoke, we're electrical beings, and our energy runs on nerves, and those nerves are like hose pipes. So your garden hose, if you pinch a garden hose, you don't have much water running through it. When we hunch over at our computers, we aren't just pinching off our lungs, we're pinching off the energy that runs through our nerve endings. So proper breath gives you proper alignment, and that proper alignment gives you the proper space so those nerves can energize your system. We're naturally energetic people. We just sort of accumulate these blockages, and everyone thinks it's normal.
This is going to be great in combination. So every night before I go to bed, I live in a camper, and I'm 6'5", so I'm like crunched. I go outside before I go to bed every night, and do some stretches, just some hands over the head, and just reach and reach and reach, and I can feel my neck. It just almost like it pops up as I'm stretching. And when I started doing that, I felt like I could sleep easier. This feels like this is going to be like a supercharge of that exercise on top of it, because it feels I'm getting the same physical reaction as I got when I first started doing that.
And again, we're only just getting started. There's even more juice in this. Okay. Now, right now, you're experiencing the immediate benefits of correct breathing. One thing that I'm going to show you now is something my coach taught me when I was fighting. He said, before you do a combination, Tim, do a big snort, rapidly snort as fast as you can over your nose, through your nose, because behind my nose, behind everyone's nose, there is sinus cavities, and they're about the size of a walnut. And so according to my coach, when you snort that air over your nostrils, you pull it straight through to your brain, oxygenate your brain. And, whether that was based in science or not, it worked in combat, and it's worth giving yourself a try of it. So what we're going to do is exactly what we've done before. We're going to breathe in, hit those turbo buttons, raise that chin, raise that chest. But we're going to do it sort of twice as fast. We're trying to, with our mouth closed, we're going to suck as much air as we can over our sinuses. Cool?
So we're going to do the whole thing through our nose and do it fast.
And do it, start slow and then finish fast. Yeah, so you're really trying
fast.
Finish
fast.
So
do the whole exercise and then finish with what you got left through your nose as a sniff.
No. Let me explain it properly. So I'll give you a demonstration. So we're blowing it out, relax, mouth closed, breathe in. And then when it gets to the secondary inhale, really, I sort of stick my tongue roof of my mouth, flare my nostrils and snort that air. Okay. And then hold it like that, and then let it out with a
All right. Let's do it. All right.
All right. So just feeling your power buttons, blowing it out, blowing it out, blowing it out, blowing it out, blowing it out. Relax, relax, relax. And then when you start your momentum, breathe in, then hit those turbo buttons, snort that air, look to the ceiling, snort, 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 open, open, open. Now I want you to hold that, wriggle your chest, wriggle your shoulders, wriggle, wriggle, wriggle. Feel that chest opening up. Feel it opening up. Feel how good it is to have an open chest. And if it feels amazing, let it out with a
Oh, for sure. You feel the body going through different convulsions almost as you get deeper and deeper.
Yeah. So this breath here, I call not just the secondary inhale, I call it the breath of possibility. Because when things are impossible, Brian, especially for me, when there's crap going on in my head, my shoulders start slouching forward. Okay. I start not just pinching off my lungs, but as we discussed, I pinch off my nerves. So I know I'm supposed to breathe properly, but I need these little, I call them circuit breakers or medicine pumps. I need that to make the impossible possible. So, I'm human. Things tick me off. If I'm waiting too long in a queue, I've got to hit that circuit breaker. I've got to snort that. It's like I'm trying to snort air to displace the thoughts in my head. Okay. And it's like breathing. And in public, obviously I'm a bit more discreet, but this, if you get nothing from this podcast, if you've got this breath of possibility and you can use it throughout your day. So, I made the mistake of telling a doctor, Brian, that I couldn't sleep, and I lost 6 years of my life to pills. And I had pills by the bed, in the cupboard, in the fruit bowl, in my car, in the glove box, had them everywhere because I was always wanting to self-regulate and I couldn't do it for myself. So I didn't know breath work was something I could use to alkalize my neural pathways, bring healing to my body, bring anti-inflammatory to my body. And so that's why I'm so passionate about people connecting into their own medicine, because you become sovereign and you can do this for yourself. Now, obviously there's a time and a place to take medicine, but there's a cost to that. There's a benefit, but there's also a massive cost. And with the pills they gave me, and a lot of veterans in this same situation, they don't tell you about the cost of taking them, and they don't tell you about how hard it is to get off these things as well. So I am passionate about showing people pharmaceutical-free options they can use throughout their day. So if you get nothing from this podcast, you should get, that's going to serve you well. But what we're going to take this to another level now, Brian. So you've got the breath of possibility. I'm going to introduce you to the breath of peace. Okay. If you divide your lungs into thirds, your top third is your breath of possibility. Your bottom third is your breath of peace. And your bottom third is where you're in your lungs, you've got these little air sacs called alveoli. Down low, they're the most vascular. They have the best gas exchange with the oxygen. And when I'm working with athletes, I'll show them how to use this to push more oxygen into their system, because oxygen dissolves lactic acid. If you want more recovery time in between sets, or accelerate recovery time between runs, whatever it is, you can use this particular kind of breath to put oxygen in your system and alkalize, dissolve the lactic acid. But done stationary, it creates peace. Okay, because and this is why we need to we're going to give permission to ourselves to allow our breath to nourish us, because this is a form of nourishment a lot of people haven't experienced before. And it goes beyond your thinking thoughts. And sometimes our thinking thoughts love to sort of keep us up in our head.
Get in your way, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So this is where breath, when we breathe, we actually connect to our whole body. Our thoughts like to think that they're a separate entity, but our breath reminds us that we're a team here. We're all connected and you're a part of us. So what the breath of peace looks like is this. I'll give you a little demonstration. So we just do exactly what we did. We breathe in, we hold it, and we just wriggle it down, 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 down. Our head is down low, down towards our knees. So we're sort of hunched over, and our hands are on our bellies, and my belly is out. Okay. Hands on the belly, and my belly is out, and I push it down low. And while it's down low like a balloon, I try and push it out my mouth, but my mouth stops it, and it makes a sound like a bit like a cat hissing. And you try and restrict it so you can have as long a hiss as possible. And the longer you can make that hiss, the more that oxygen is going to exchange in the breath of peace, and the more you'll let it just do what it's supposed to do through your body. Okay?
All right. All right.
So
you feel you're filling your lungs like the original one that we just did, but then shaking the actual oxygen down lower into your lungs, because I couldn't go any further after what I had, but I could hold my breath longer, and you're dissipating that down into the lower third. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah. So exactly. So we're going in like this. We're holding our breath. And as we hold our breath, we just change the structure of our body. So we hunch over and we feel that air, feel it moving down, push your belly out, feel like a pot belly, hand on your belly. And when you've got that balloon down low, you let it out with a as long as possible. Okay?
Okay. I got you.
All right.
So
I'll be right here with you. I'll coach you through it.
All right.
So breathing out, just shake it out. Breathing out, shake it out. Breathing out, shake it out, shake it out. And then when you're ready, start breathing in through your nose. Hit those power buttons. Raise that chin. Snort that air. Open, open, open. And then hold your breath. Wriggle your shoulders. Head down low. Literally put your head towards your knees. Hands on your belly. Hands on your belly. Feel it down low like a balloon around your belly button. And then let it out with a tss. Keep your head down low. Let it out with a tss. And as you're letting it out super slow, just let your body deflate like an inflatable toy, deflating and all the tension leaving it. And we're going to do this.
So we're not going to finish this interview, right? Because I got to go to sleep now.
Yeah. You've just removed the blockages from your body, because when we connect to our body and your body's like, oh, you're listening to us now? Guess what? We're really tired. Whatever's there for you. Some people get energized. Some people, have their body saying, oh, I want to sleep.
It just felt calm.
Yeah.
And we're going to do this. As I was pushing, and as I was like, I'm listening to myself like a tire with a nail in it. And it just felt like my body was like, oh, okay, we're good. We're good right now.
Now, we're going to do this 2 more times, because this is the first time you've possibly breathed that way. And each time you'll do it, just allow yourself to get more deeply nourished by that breath. Okay?
So if you're doing this 3 times, if you were doing this for yourself, so somebody listening tonight was sitting there and doing this, is this back to back to back 3 times, or do we pause?
Ideally, well, I there's no rush. You do it in the cadence you want to, but like I said, minimum 3 times. Now you can cycle through this as many times as you want, but people who are new into the breathwork space, they just want to see, well, what can I benefit from the least amount of effort, and I'll give it to them, and this is like my front of house sampler. Okay. Right. So, if people like the sample of that, what I'm offering right now, there is a whole buffet in my online breathwork in bed resource. But even if you just take this, it's going to serve you and serve the people you care about. So we're going to do this. We're going to do this 3 times, because we've had a little conversation, because I really want you to get the depth of this.
Just a little bit. Hold on a second. All right, there. You're there now.
I got you. Things just went a bit blurry for a second.
All right, you're good. You kind of broke up a little bit right when. So now we're gonna do it 3 times in a row. Is that, I think, is
3
what you were
times in a row,
starting to say?
and you just give yourself permission to let that breath nourish you and do what it naturally does. Right. Okay, I'll coach you through it. I'll be here the whole time. So just blowing it out, blow it out, shake it out, blow it out, shake it out. Then breathe in, snort that air, hit those power buttons. Open up that chest. Feel how good it is to have an open, proud chest. Wriggle, wriggle, wriggle. Holding that air, just let your head go forward, hands on your belly, push it down low, let it out slow with a tss. Let your body relax as you exhale. Feel how your body's relaxing. Good, good. All the way in, open up. Holding your breath, wriggle it down low. Feel how each time you do it, you can be more relaxed. Hands on your belly, letting it out slow. And just treat your body like it's an inflatable toy that's just deflating. All the tension's leaving your shoulders, your neck, your face. As you exhale, all that tension's just leaving. And then this last one, hit those power buttons, open up, even bigger than before, even longer than before. Open. Feel how good it is to be open. Wriggle it. And then gently collapse forward. Feel that air going down low. Hands on your belly. Feel that balloon down low and let this one out extra slow. And let all that, as you exhale, let that tension leave your body. Feel how it's leaving your shoulders, your spine. And I just encourage you, Brian, to just for a second, keep your eyes closed and just sit in that chair. Just sit in that chair with your eyes closed. And let that chair take your weight. That chair was built to hold you. It will support you. Allow those muscles that are touching that chair feel supported. Notice how your muscles really appreciate being supported and held, and how often in our tension we don't allow ourselves to be held. It's like our own tension stops ourselves feeling held and supported. But it doesn't work like that. It's only when we relax those muscles that we can really feel held, supported.
Right. I mean, I'm feeling everything you were talking about as you were saying it. I was already feeling it internally, and you were reinforcing it almost. It wasn't like you weren't putting it in my head. Let's just put it that way. You know, this guy knows what he's talking about, folks. If you're listening, for sure, give this a try. I highly encourage anybody to give that a try. I feel incredible right now. It's going to be a great night for me.
Oh, so you feel energized now? You don't feel tired?
I do. I felt relaxed, and now as I sat, it I just feel good. I don't want to say euphoric, but on the verge, you know, that feeling where everything feels good. You feel right.
Well done, Brian. Well done. And that was
3 breaths.
Who knew? You know, right. You know, like I said, I really encourage people to create a lifestyle out of this. It's what we do regularly. Repetition restores. And so, to that end, I've created an online resource for people who want to make a lifestyle out of it. So, anyone with a phone can open up go to their app store and look up Breathwork in Bed. 3 words, Breathwork in Bed, like breakfast in bed. When you go in there, it'll ask you 2 really simple questions. When do you want to sleep? When do you want to wake up? And then it just falls out of your phone when you need it. Okay, so I usually do the things that I get reminded to do. So if I can just have something that I hit and then press play, then it's easy and effortless. And it's 2 of the most powerful micro habits you can do is that 5 or 10 minutes to turn that bed into a cloud, feel absolutely amazing before going to sleep, turning off that conscious mind. And then when you wake up, instead of just using motivation to move that lead out of the bed, you spend a few minutes doing breath work and you turn that lead into gold. Your feet hit the ground very differently. And I'm here to tell you, Brian, many times I have been saved when you wake up at 2 a.m., your head's racing. To have that Breathwork in Bed app there that you can just hit a button and be guided to sleep. And trust me, though, at 2 a.m., your mind, who's normally used to running the show, will say, this is bullshit. Breathwork's bullshit. It won't work. But at about the 45-second mark, you're like, oh, there it is. Thank you, right? So So, you know, this is my offering to people, to make a lifestyle that's easy and effortless, to micro habits that will have you and your loved ones feeling a lot more rested and connected.
Tim. I will have I'll have a link to both app stores in the video description. I'll have a link to, I believe you have a website under the same name that I can send people to check out.
I'll also give you a link for the first 20 clicks, a free audio book with some bonus breathwork in bed audio book with some bonus breathwork tracks at the end. And I'll also give you the link to that breath of peace and possibility. So if you want to revisit that. Yeah.
Perfect. I appreciate that. I hope everybody takes part and gives it a try, because you know, you hear things and you're like, oh yeah, right, bullshit. No, it's for sure everything he was saying. So Tim, I appreciate you coming on. I'm guessing this stretched into a couple. We had some internet issues. Maybe it'll end up being one episode. I don't really know. But man, I appreciate you coming on. I definitely want to keep in touch with you, and maybe we'll follow up and do it again.
I would absolutely love to, Brian. This has been fun. I like doing things that are fun.
All right, man. I appreciate you being here.